Now, let us go to the third step in MEMS fabrication, that is micromachining. Micromachining means it is a controlled removal of material in the micron scale in order to get a specified shape. There are two kinds of machining. We can categorize it based on the depth in which the metal removal happens. One is bulk micromachining and the one is surface micromachining. Bulk micromachining means the material removal happens appreciably through the thickness of the metal deposit, material deposit. In surface micromachining, only the surface of the deposit is etched away or the removed in micromachining. So this is a relative term, whether it's a bulk or surface micromachining, depending on the thickness on which the metal is removed by some means. Bulk micromachining has got a lot of applications for making many kinds of sensors. And like that, surface micromachining is also having a lot of applications to generate membranes such as diaphragms, etc. Let us see more in detail about micromachining process. Micromachining, the typical method used for micromachining is etching. Etching, we know that it's a removal of material. In MEMS fabrication, there are two kinds of etching possible or removal possible. One is called as a wet etching, another one is called as dry etching. Wet etching means the material removal of unmasked region using a liquid chemical. We know that certain regions will be masked, and depending on the masking, material will be exposed to light. Then depending on the mask, certain regions will be removed. So if the removal of the material is happening by using liquid chemical, then we call it as wet etching. And if the removal is by physical means without using liquid chemical, then we call it as dry etching. Now you have to write a question, that is, what are the factors that are controlling the wet etching process? I am going to address that question here now. Wet etching, the controlling factors are, one is direction dependency. That means when etching happens on the substrate, sometimes the etching happens equally in equal rate in all the direction, then we call it as isotropic etching. Isotropic, the word stands for equal etching in all the direction. Whereas if the etching is not happening uniformly in a uniform rate in all the direction, we call it as anisotropic etching. So in etching process, direction of etching has got a role. Another word is dopant dependency. We can give some doping material such as boron or phosphorus in the substrate material, and this doping material can act as a passivation layer. Passivation means inactive. That means in the region of substrate itself, if there is passivation by means of this boron or phosphorus or any other kind of dopants, then it is possible to control the etching rate in that region. So dopant dependency is another factor that can control the etching process, the wet etching process. Another factor that controls the wet etching process is the crystallographic orientation of the substrate. That means depending on the crystallographic orientation, we know that depending on the crystallographic orientation, the bonding strength can be different. So for certain deposit material, it will be more active. The HN will be more active in certain directions, whereas it will be inactive in certain other direction. So crystallographic orientation is also important in order to decide the etching rate. Okay. Now, another factor is concentration of etchant. If high concentrated material etchant can be used so that the etching rate can be changed. Temperature is also another factor that depends that controls the etching process. Typically, the operation temperature will be 20 to 100 degrees Celsius. But depending on the temperature, in certain cases, the etching rate will be different. So these are the controlling factors that will govern the etching rate in wet etching process. Wet etchants, I'll give you a few examples. Anisotropic etching we have seen, where the etching is not happening in uniform rate in all the direction. That means in certain direction, there is etching happening at faster rate, whereas in other direction, the rate is different. We have also seen that in crystals, depending on the crystallographic plane, the etching rate will be different. So anisotropic etching happens on crystals where crystallographic plane has got relevance in etching process. Examples for anisotropic etchant for silicon is hydrofluoric acid. HF stands for hydrofluoric acid. Is an example for isotropic etchant used for silicon. Another anisotropic etchant for silicon is ethyl diamine pyrocatechol, EDP in short form, or potassium hydroxide. These are etchants that are working in an anisotropic fashion on silicon. From this, it's clear that for the same substrate itself, depending on the chemical that is used, the kind of etching can be isotropic or anisotropic. That is, in certain cases, it will be crystallographic orientation dependent. In other case, it may not be dependent. There is another etchant, example, acidic system, that is a combination of hydrofluoric acid, nitric acid, and acetic acid that etches silicon dioxide very slowly of the rate of 2 micron meter per minute. Thus, silicon dioxide can be a mask layer for brief etching time, that is, for surface micromachining. I will explain this statement. We know here that silicon dioxide, on silicon dioxide, if we use this acidic system, this combination of etchant, the etching rate is very slow, that is 2 micron meter per minute. That means even if that etchant is applied on the surface of silicon dioxide, etching happens only on the surface. It may not go into depth, into the bulk of the deposit material. So this acidic system can be used as a surface micromachining etchant for silicon dioxide. We can also say that if you want to etch some other material, that material, if it is more reactive to acidic system like this, for that material, if you deposit silicon dioxide as a mask material, then etching will on the base material can be controlled by this process, by this combination. Silicon nitride and aurum are masked for high etch time. That is, if you want to mask a particular surface for a longer period, better to coat that surface with silicon nitride or aurum. Boron doped silicon layer can be used as a boundary to stop etching action. We have seen that some dopant has got capability to passivate the etching process. Passivate means reduce or cut the chemical reaction, is called as passivation. In the case of mild steel clamps and all we see conventionally, where you have seen that there is a kind of a yellow kind of coating on that surface in order to prevent it from rusting. So that kind of yellow coating on steel plates, that is called as a passivation kind of coating. That means the rusting will be prevented. Like that, in the case of MEMS fabrication, boron doping can be used as a passivation layer for silicon, so that there won't be etching happening in that region. Or we can dope certain regions in silicon layer, and at that boundary, the etching process will be stopped. Wet etching. Let us see the isotropic and anisotropic appearance. This is showing isotropic wet etching with stirring and without stirring. That means stirring means the agitation that is happening at a particular region. Stirring means agitation is given at a particular region. In the case of isotropic wet etching, in order to have, though there is reaction equally happening in all the direction, in order to get a controlled cross-section, it is better to agitate so that the etchant will be having interaction with the substrate. So with a stirring, it will have a better profile compared to this. Here it is seen that there is undercut happens here. So though the reaction happens in all the direction equally, but the undercuts or this kind of profile can be generated. To control the profile cross section, it is better to provide stirring if it is needed. So wet etching, one process is stirring and without stirring. And you have to think that though this is looking like say a 2 centimeter kind of a diameter, in fact, this is happening in a micron scale. That is, this may be around 10 to 20 micron meter will be this dimension. So flooding, that is, you are dropping etchant on the surface. That means actually even a drop that is falling on the region will look like a flood for this particular size. So the controlled reaction happens in that dimension, in that scale. That's what you had to think when we think about micromachining. Immersion etching is a method where wafer is placed in a bath and that is agitated. Then here the etching rate is approximately 0.25 to 40 micron meter per minute. There can be undercuts formed as we see here. So this is called as immersion etching. The wafer is immersed in a bath of wet etchant. There is another process called as spray etching. In this, as the name indicates, etchant will be sprayed. That is, less volume of etchant is sprayed on the surface to be etched. Again, the surface that are not supposed to be etched will be masked by using some mask layers, as we have seen in the previous case. So wherever the surface are exposed to etchant, there will be reaction. Spray etching, that is using low quantity of etchant compared to immersion etching. The spray etching is faster than immersion etching, and there is automatic agitation at the location because of spray that will be falling on the region. So there will be a force transfer. So there is agitation, and that will lead to a faster removal rate. Constant supply of etchant and good control on the metal removal are another feature of spray etching process over the immersion etching. In short, immersion etching means the wafer to be micromachined will be dipped inside a bath and where it will be agitated. Spray etching means the etchant will be sprayed on a surface to be etched in a controlled fashion. Spray etching has got better metal removal rate compared to immersion etching as per the investigations. I have told you that wet etching has got crystallographic dependency in machining. In anisotropic wet etching, this diagram shows a few examples. We are seeing certain kind of planes like 100 group of planes, 111 kind of planes, etc. So there is a boron doped silicon surface we see here. So boron doped means there is no chemical reaction that can happen. If such a particular crystal structured deposit is exposed to etchant, the etching can happen like this. That is, it can happen in a particular angle. That means that etchant is more active in that plane compared to other planes. This is called as crystallographic orientation dependency. And since the etching reaction is non-uniform in different directions, we call it as anisotropic wet etching. So when we buy a particular crystal wafer, how can we understand what is the kind of crystallographic orientation inside the wafer? That's a question. For that, the manufacturers, when they provide wafers for manufacturing, they'll use a standard method. If the appearance of the wafer is like this, having one side flat, another side secondary flat, and this kind of arrangement, then it is 100 kind of crystallographic orientation and N-type kind of wafers. If this is the kind of the design appearance of the wafer, then primary there is a flat surface and here is a small flat surface on the 90 degree, then it is 100 type, P type. Similarly, depending on the shape of the silicon wafer, what is the crystallographic orientation inside the silicon wafer can be identified, and this will be given by the manufacturer. So there is a standard notation used to communicate what is the kind of crystallographic orientation inside a wafer. This is very important because when we use a wafer, if it is dependent on the crystallographic orientation, then it is better to know the orientation in order to have a control on the machining process. We are seeing here sacrificial layer method of micromachining. Sacrificial layer means a layer that is deposited on a substrate that can be removed or sacrificed. That layer is sacrificed in order to get another shape. I'll explain the concept of sacrificial layer method of micromachining. Consider this particular diagram, diagram. Here, imagine that on a substrate, you want to generate a mechanical bridge kind of arrangement like this in the micron scale. How can we fabricate such a construction? For that, the process is on the substrate, we will place some sacrificial layer, some deposit initially with some material. That material will act as a sacrificial layer. And after depositing the material, and unwanted regions will be removed so that only the required region will be retained. So this is layer number 1. On that layer, another actual material is deposited like this. Now you are going to use an etchant which is more reactive to the first layer and non-reactive to the second layer, so that the first layer will be removed and you get the structure like this. So the initially deposited layer was a sacrificial layer in order to generate this kind of arrangement. Here there is another example of using sacrificial layer to get a cantilever, micro level cantilever beam. Here it's a cantilever beam. So this is a beam we had to fabricate in the micron scale. For that, again, on the substrate, one oxide layer, some layer is deposited initially using a sacrificial layer, and a particular region of that layer is removed by using the exposing and washing. So you are resulting at this kind of cross section. Now on that surface, another layer is deposited like this. Again, by using a chemical that is more reactive to the sacrificial layer, that sacrificial layer will be removed. That etchant will be non-reactive to the final object, the actual objective that is required. So that cantilever will be retained here. This method is used extensively in many applications, including making motors. This is a micron level motor, surface micro machined motor. So here there is a sacrificial layer. There are many depositions, and after depositing it, unwanted layer will be removed so that it will appear like that. So there is bearing, there are stators, there are rotating elements, etc. in this. So this is the schematic view of the motor. These are the stators. By giving electrostatic charge, it is possible to make this rotor to rotate. So this is the construction of a micro motor. It's possible to fabricate using sacrificial layer method. Another category of micromachining, dry etching. As we know, dry etching does not use liquid chemical to remove material. So dry etching means material removal is happening by physical means. Generally, plasma assisted etching or vaporization or sputtering can be done to remove material. We have seen vaporization, that is, metal is removed from a surface by heating is vaporization. Sputtering is removal of material by means of knocking it out or using high energy particle, that is sputtering. So if you remove the material from a surface in a controlled fashion by vaporization, then that is removal of material, one form of removal of material by vaporization. If you remove the material from a substrate by using sputtering method, that is, in a controlled fashion, a metal is removed by using energized ion particles, then it is sputtering. So vaporization and sputtering are examples for dry etching where there is no chemical use. Instead, physically, metal is removed from a substrate. The dry etching has got a problem called as these are having poor selective etching capability. That is, control on the etching surface is a little difficult in dry etching. It has got low process control. It is not good for micro surface etching, because if there is knocking or evaporation happens from a surface, these two processes are uncontrolled. So the depth of removal cannot be controlled. So micro surface etching is not that easy with dry etching process. In this diagram, we see a typical plate reactive ion etching system. RIE stands for reactive ion etching system. In this system, this is the container, we call it as a reactor. There are two plates, two electrodes, and there is a provision to remove the gas inside that or making it to a low pressure chamber. There is gas supply possible, typically inert gas like argon gas, and there is RF in frequency simulator. Now there are wafers kept inside this. Okay, from the wafers we had to remove material, that is, etching should happen on the wafer surface. Now in this process, when RF signal is given, the gas will be ionized, and the ions are used to knock out the material from the surface. Sometimes the ions can react on the material on the surface to remove the material also. That means in this case, there are two possibilities. Either the ions react on the surface, that means there is a chemical reaction that can happen to remove the material. The second possibility is sputtering, that is, high energy or high momentum ions are coming and knocking out the material from the surface. So that is another possibility. So in reactive ion etching, there will be chemical etching as well as sputtering, both happens. So a kind of chemical etching, the plasma reacts with the substrate surface to remove it. So there is no chemical liquid used here. So we call it as dry etching, but by chemical means. Sputtering can also be used for etching. That is, the substrate is subjected to ion bombardment to remove material physically from the surface. So if metal is removed from the surface, we call it as micromachining. And if it is done without any chemical liquid, then we call it as dry etching. This reactive ion etching and sputter etching are examples for physical means of etching. One more example for dry etching is vaporization etching. The arrangement is similar to or sputtering process, where there will be a vacuum chamber. Inside that, there are wafers kept, and there is provision to evacuate the chamber, and there is high voltage given to that, to cathode. So there is a provision for argon gas inlet. Here, the material to be etched is dissolved at the surface in a chemical reaction with the gas molecules. The two most common wafer phase etching technologies are silicon dioxide etching using hydrogen fluoride and silicon etching using xenon difluoride. So these are the common method of vapor phase etching happens. Here it has got a problem called as it has got low number of substrate that can be micro machined. That is low throughput. In this method, the surface of substrate is heated up enormously. That leads to inherent associated problem. You know, if the wafer that is subject to high temperature, there can be temperature associated stress can be developed inside the wafer that can lead to failure. So high temperature operation with wafer is also a problem because of warping or high temperature stress related problems.